The wedding dress hung like a ghost in my closet, its pristine white silk mocking me from behind the plastic cover. 3 weeks. That's how long I had left to live, according to Dr. Harrison's latest prognosis. 3 weeks until my heart would finally give out, and 3 weeks until what should have been the happiest day of my life. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. I pressed my palm against my chest, feeling the irregular rhythm that had plagued me since childhood. The genetic heart condition that made me fragile, that made everyone treat me like I was made of glass. Everyone except Marcus. Marcus Blackwood didn't see me as broken. When he looked at me with those steel-gray eyes, I felt whole for the first time in my 24 years. Our engagement had been the one bright spot in a life overshadowed by hospital visits and worried glances from my family. But as I stood there staring at that dress, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Where was everyone? The Whitmore estate had always been my sanctuary. Nestled in the hills of Malibu, the sprawling mansion overlooked the Pacific Ocean, its Mediterranean architecture a testament to old money and refined taste. I'd grown up running through these halls, my bare feet silent on the imported marble floors, always careful not to exert myself too much. "Sophia, is that you?" My stepmother Victoria's voice drifted from the East Wing, honeyed and sweet as always. Victoria Whitmore had married my father when I was 12, bringing her daughter Celeste into our lives. Dad had been so lonely after Mom died, and Victoria seemed like the answer to his prayers, beautiful, sophisticated, and apparently devoted to him. I made my way toward the sound, my steps echoing in the empty corridors. Strange, usually the house buzzed with activity from the household staff, but today felt different, abandoned. "In here, darling," Victoria called from the sunroom. I pushed open the glass doors and froze. Victoria sat at the wrought iron table, but she wasn't alone. Celeste was there too, her golden hair catching the afternoon light. And beside her, Marcus? The name escaped my lips in a whisper. My fiancé turned toward me, and for a split second I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt? Regret? But it was gone so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined it. "Sophia." He stood, his tall frame imposing even in casual clothes. "We need to talk." "Yes, we do," Victoria agreed, her smile never wavering. "Sit down, sweetheart. We have wonderful news." Wonderful news. The words felt like ice in my veins. I lowered myself into the empty chair, my heart already racing and not in the good way that meant I needed to rest. "Marcus has something to tell you," Celeste said, her voice bubbling with barely contained excitement. My stepsister had always been beautiful, the kind of effortless beauty that drew people like moths to a flame. Where I was pale and fragile, she was golden and vibrant. Where I spent my days in doctors' offices, she spent hers at charity galas and society events. Marcus cleared his throat, his hands clasped behind his back. "Sophia, what we had was special, but sometimes people change. Sometimes they realize what they really want." The world started to tilt. "What are you saying?" "He's saying," Celeste interrupted, unable to contain herself any longer, "that he's chosen me. We're in love, Sophia. Real love. Not the kind born out of pity or obligation. Pity." The word hit me like a physical blow. Pity? Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. "You have to understand, Sophia. When your father approached me about the engagement, about securing the merger between Blackwood Industries and Whitmore Holdings, I thought it could work. You're sweet, and I genuinely care about you. But you're dying," Victoria finished gently, as if she were discussing the weather. "And Marcus needs someone who can give him a future, children, a wife who can stand by his side for decades, not months." The merger. Of course. How could I have been so naive? The Blackwood-Whitmore merger was worth billions, combining Dad's real estate empire with Marcus's tech conglomerate. I'd thought Marcus loved me, but I was just a business transaction. "The doctors say you have weeks, not months," Celeste added, her blue eyes bright with false sympathy. "It would be cruel to tie Marcus to a deathbed marriage, don't you think?" I looked around the table at their faces, Victoria's practiced concern, Celeste's poorly hidden triumph, and Marcus's cool detachment. "Where's my father?" "Business trip," Victoria said smoothly. "Tokyo. He'll be back next week after the dust settles." After the dust settles. They'd planned this. Waited until Dad was gone to ambush me. The engagement announcement has already been retracted from the Times, Marcus said, pulling out his phone, and the new one will run tomorrow morning. I stared at the screen he showed me. There was Celeste, radiant in an emerald green gown, her hand displaying a ring I'd never seen before. The headline read, "Blackwood heir announces engagement to Whitmore heiress." "That's not the ring you gave me," I whispered. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Celeste preferred something more substantial. The one I gave you was rather modest." Modest. The vintage Cartier ring that had belonged to his grandmother was modest. The ring I'd treasured because he'd told me it represented family legacy and true love. "Where is it?" I asked. "In your room," Celeste said. "On your nightstand, though I don't know why you'd want to keep it. It's not like you can return it for store credit." The casual cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. This was my stepsister, the girl I'd shared a home with for 12 years. The girl I'd defended when she got caught shoplifting at 16. The girl whose college tuition I'd helped pay from my trust fund when Victoria claimed they were having financial difficulties. "Sophia, darling." Victoria reached across the table and patted my hand. "I know this is difficult, but try to see it from a practical standpoint. You've always been so mature about your condition. This is just another reality to accept." Another reality to accept, like accepting that I'd never run a marathon or climb mountains or have children of my own, like accepting that my life would be measured in heartbeats, each one precious because there were so few left. "I should go," Marcus said, avoiding my eyes. "The lawyers are waiting to finalize the merger documents." "Of course they are," I said quietly. He paused at the door. "For what it's worth, Sophia, I did care about you. I hope you understand that none of this is personal." Not personal. The man I'd planned to marry, the man I'd given my heart to, was leaving me to die alone, and it wasn't personal. After he left, Victoria and Celeste continued planning their engagement party as if I weren't there. 600 guests, the Beverly Hills Hotel. Vera Wang was flying in personally to design Celeste's gown. "Should we invite the Pemberton family?" Victoria mused. "Their son James is quite successful, and he's been asking about Celeste." "Mother, I'm marrying Marcus," Celeste laughed. "Though James is rather handsome, maybe after the honeymoon." They laughed together, their voices light and carefree. I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. "Where are you going, sweetheart?" Victoria asked. "To my room." "Good idea. You look tired. All this excitement can't be good for your heart." I climbed the marble staircase one step at a time, my hand gripping the banister. By the time I reached my bedroom, my chest was tight and my breathing labored. On my nightstand, exactly where Celeste had said it would be, sat my engagement ring. I picked it up, turning it over in my fingers. Such a small thing to represent such a massive betrayal. Through my bedroom window I could see Marcus's black Tesla pulling out of the circular driveway, probably heading straight to his lawyers to sign papers that would make him one of the wealthiest men in California. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Madison. "Saw the news online. Are you okay? Call me." The news was already online. Of course it was. In a few hours, everyone would know that Sophia Whitmore had been discarded for her prettier, healthier stepsister. The society pages would buzz with speculation. Some would call it romantic, a love story for the ages. Others would whisper about poor, sickly Sophia, left to die alone while her sister married her fiancé. I sat on my bed, the ring heavy in my palm. Part of me wanted to throw it out the window, to watch it disappear into the perfectly manicured gardens below. But instead, I found myself thinking about my mother. Elena Whitmore had died when I was 11, her own heart giving out after years of the same condition that now plagued me. But she'd been strong right until the end, fierce and beautiful and uncompromising. What would she think of how her daughter was being treated in her own home? "Fight," I whispered to the empty room, hearing her voice in my memory. "Don't you dare let them win without a fight." But what fight did I have left? I was dying, abandoned and utterly alone. As if summoned by my despair, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Miss Whitmore?" The voice was crisp, professional. "This is attorney Jonathan Blackstone from Morrison Reed and Associates. I represent the estate of your late mother, Elena Whitmore. I have some urgent matters to discuss with you regarding your inheritance." "My inheritance? I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake. My mother didn't have an estate. She died with medical debts." "Miss Whitmore, I assure you there's no mistake." Your mother left very specific instructions that certain information was only to be revealed to you upon your 25th birthday or in the event of life-threatening circumstances. Given your current medical prognosis, I believe we need to meet immediately. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. My 25th birthday was still 6 months away. What kind of information? The kind that changes everything, Miss Whitmore. Can you meet me tonight? I'm afraid this truly cannot wait. I looked around my bedroom at the wedding dress hanging like a shroud, at the engagement ring that represented my shattered dreams, at the family photos where I was always standing slightly apart from Victoria and Celeste. Yes, I said, I can meet you tonight. Because what did I have to lose? In 3 weeks I'd be dead anyway. But as I hung up the phone, something stirred in my chest that had nothing to do with my failing heart. For the first time in years, I felt like I was about to discover who I really was. And everyone who had betrayed me was about to discover it too. The law offices of Morrison, Reed & Associates occupied the entire 42nd floor of a downtown Los Angeles skyscraper. At 9 p.m., the building was nearly empty, but attorney Jonathan Blackstone had insisted on meeting immediately. His secretary, a stern woman named Mrs. Chen, led me through mahogany-paneled corridors lined with portraits of distinguished partners. Mr. Blackstone is waiting in conference room A, she said, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Can I get you anything? Water? Tea? I shook my head, too nervous to speak. The elevator ride had left me breathless, and I could feel my heart struggling with the stress. Whatever this was about, it had to be important enough to warrant an emergency meeting. Jonathan Blackstone was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-40s, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stood when I entered, extending his hand. Miss Whitmore, thank you for coming on such short notice. Please, sit down. The conference table was enormous, designed for corporate takeovers and billion-dollar deals. I felt tiny sitting across from him, like a child called to the principal's office. Before we begin, he said, placing a thick manila folder on the table, I need to verify your identity. He slid a photograph across the surface. Is this your mother? I picked up the picture with trembling fingers. It was Mom, but not as I remembered her. This woman wore an elegant business suit and stood beside a gleaming skyscraper, her dark hair pulled back in a sophisticated chignon. She looked powerful, confident, nothing like the fragile woman who'd spent her last years in and out of hospitals. Yes, that's Elena Whitmore, but I've never seen this photo before. That's because it was taken before she married your father, before she became Elena Whitmore. He leaned forward, his expression serious. Miss Whitmore, Sophia, your mother's maiden name was Elena Castellano. The name hit me like a thunderbolt. Castellano, I knew that name. Everyone in business knew that name. As in Castellano Industries? I whispered. As in the Castellano Empire. Real estate, technology, shipping, international trade. Your mother was the eldest daughter and primary heir of Vincent Castellano, one of the most powerful men in America. My head spun. Vincent Castellano was legendary, a self-made billionaire who'd built his empire from nothing, starting with a single shipping container in San Pedro and expanding into a global conglomerate. Forbes estimated his net worth at over $50 billion. That's impossible. My mother came from nothing. She met my father when she was working as a hotel receptionist. That's the story she told everyone, yes. But Elena Castellano disappeared from New York society 26 years ago, cutting all ties with her family. She changed her identity, moved to California and started over as Elena Morrison, taking our law firm's name. Actually, she worked at the hotel where she met your father because she wanted to build a life on her own terms. Why would she do that? Why give up billions? Blackstone opened the folder and pulled out a letter written in my mother's elegant handwriting. Perhaps this will explain. I took the letter with shaking hands. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, then something has happened to me, and Jonathan has deemed it necessary to reveal the truth. I pray you'll understand why I kept this from you. I was born Elena Castellano, heir to an empire built on power, manipulation, and the kind of ruthless ambition that destroys everything beautiful in its path. My father groomed me to be his successor, but I saw what that world did to people. It turned my younger brother Michael into a monster who would sell his own mother for market share. It made my father view relationships as transactions and love as weakness, When I turned 21 and my trust fund matured, I discovered documents proving that our family's wealth was built on corruption, bribery, extortion, illegal monopolies. I threatened to expose everything unless my father cleaned up our operations. Instead, he tried to have me declared mentally incompetent and steal my inheritance. So I ran. I took nothing but my mother's jewelry and started over as Elena Morrison. I met your father and found real love, the kind that exists without contracts or conditions. We were happy, even when my health began to fail. But I never forgot who I really was, and I made sure my inheritance would come to you when you needed it most. You are the rightful heir to the Castellano fortune, Sophia. More than that, you're the granddaughter of Vincent Castellano, who died 3 years ago and left specific instructions in his will. He spent his final years searching for me, regretting our estrangement. His estate has been in trust, waiting for his lost granddaughter to claim her birthright. I know this is overwhelming, but you must understand. You have power now, real power. Use it wisely, and don't let anyone make you feel small ever again. All my love, Mom. I set the letter down with trembling hands. How much money are we talking about? Your grandfather's estate is worth approximately $60 billion. Your mother's original trust fund, which has been earning compound interest for 25 years, is worth another $8 billion. Combined with various properties, investments, and business holdings, he paused, studying my face. You're looking at roughly $70 billion, Miss Castellano. $70 billion. The number was so large it felt abstract, like discussing the distance to Mars. There's more, Blackstone continued. Your grandfather left a controlling interest in Castellano Industries to you, along with a seat on the board of directors. The company is currently being run by your uncle Michael, but according to the will, leadership transfers to you upon your 25th birthday or upon verification of your identity, whichever comes first. Michael Castellano? I'd seen him on the news. A cold, calculating man who'd expanded the family empire into new markets with ruthless efficiency. He's been fighting the will for 3 years, claiming you were dead. But now that you've come forward, Blackstone smiled grimly, he'll have to step aside. What if I don't want it? What if I just want the money? That's certainly your right. But Miss Castellano, may I call you that? Your uncle has made some questionable business decisions in recent years. There are rumors of the same corruption that drove your mother away. If you don't take control, innocent people will suffer. I thought about Marcus and his tech company, how proud he'd been of building something ethical and innovative. Then I thought about how easily he'd thrown me away when someone better came along. What happens if I accept? Tomorrow morning, I will file papers with the probate court establishing your identity. By noon, you'll have access to your accounts. By evening, Michael Castellano will be out, and you'll be the most powerful woman in America. And what happens to my current life? To my father's company? Whitmore Holdings is successful, but it's tiny compared to what you'll inherit. If you choose, you could buy out Marcus Blackwood's entire operation with pocket change. The irony was breathtaking. Marcus had left me for Celeste to secure a merger worth billions, not knowing I was about to inherit an empire that dwarfed both their companies combined. There's one more thing, Blackstone said, pulling out another document. Your grandfather left you a personal message. He recorded it shortly before his death. He turned his laptop toward me and pressed play. The screen filled with the image of an elderly man in a hospital bed, his eyes sharp despite his frail appearance. Elena's daughter, he said, his voice raspy but strong. If you're watching this, then your mother is gone, and I'm sorry I never got to meet you. I failed your mother when she needed me most. I chose money over family, power over love. Don't make my mistakes. The Castellano name carries weight, but it also carries responsibility. Use both wisely. And remember, blood isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who stands with you when the world tries to tear you down. Your mother taught me that even after I'd lost her. Be better than I was. Be better than your uncle. Be the leader this family should have had all along. The video ended, leaving silence in its wake. I need time to think, I said finally. Of course. But Miss Castellano, I should warn you, word will leak soon. Michael has spies everywhere, and the moment you're declared heir, he'll try to destroy your credibility. He'll paint you as a fortune hunter, a mentally unstable woman trying to steal what isn't yours. Like father, like son. Exactly. Which is why if you decide to move forward, we need to act quickly and decisively. I stood up, my legs steadier than they'd been in hours. For the first time in my life, I wasn't thinking about my heart condition or my limitations. I was thinking about power, real power. Mr. Blackstone, If I do this, if I claim my inheritance, I want complete control. No advisors, no corporate boards telling me what I can and can't do. That's exactly what your grandfather intended. Good. I picked up my mother's letter and folded it carefully. Then let's make some calls. I want this handled quietly, but I want it handled tonight. What about your health? The stress? My health is my concern. Right now I have more important things to worry about. I headed toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Mr. Blackstone, when Marcus Blackwood wakes up tomorrow morning, I want him to discover that someone just bought out his entire company. Someone he's never gonna see coming. As I left the law office, I could feel something changing inside me. The scared, fragile girl who'd been discarded by her own family was disappearing, replaced by someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Sophia Whitmore was dying, but Elena Castellano was just born, and she had some debts to collect. 3 months had passed since that night in Jonathan Blackstone's office. 3 months since Elena Castellano had risen from the ashes of Sophia Whitmore's broken dreams. And tonight, at the grand ballroom of the Four Seasons Beverly Hills, the whole charade would finally come to an end. I adjusted the diamond necklace at my throat, a family heirloom worth more than most people's houses, and studied my reflection in the penthouse suite's floor-to-ceiling mirror. The woman staring back bore little resemblance to the fragile girl who'd been cast aside like yesterday's newspaper. Dr. Reeves had been amazed by my recovery. The experimental treatment available only to those with unlimited resources had worked miracles. My heart was stronger than it had been in years, and my body had filled out with proper nutrition and the best medical care money could buy. But the real transformation went deeper than the surface. Where Sophia Whitmore had been naive and trusting, Elena Castellano was calculating and strategic. Where Sophia had been grateful for scraps of affection, Elena commanded respect through power. Miss Castellano, my assistant David knocked softly on the door. The car is ready. Are you certain you want to go through with tonight's plan? Absolutely certain. I picked up the invitation from the marble vanity. Elegant cream cardstock embossed with gold lettering. Marcus and Celeste's engagement party. The social event of the season, according to the society pages. They had no idea their guest of honor would be attending. The ride to the Four Seasons took 30 minutes through Los Angeles traffic. I spent the time reviewing the files David had compiled over the past weeks. Marcus's company, Blackwood Industries, was hemorrhaging money. Their latest product launch had failed spectacularly, and their stock price had plummeted by 60%. He was desperately seeking investors to avoid bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Celeste's modeling career, such as it was, had stalled completely. The agencies that had once courted her were mysteriously no longer interested. Funny how quickly doors close when the right people make the right calls. The ballroom was spectacular, dripping with white orchids and crystal chandeliers. 500 of Los Angeles's most powerful people mingled beneath soaring ceilings, their laughter and conversation creating a symphony of wealth and privilege. I recognized tech moguls, real estate tycoons, entertainment executives, and politicians, many of whom now answered to me through Castellano Industries' vast network of influence. Victoria Whitmore stood near the entrance in a stunning red gown, playing the role of proud mother to perfection. She was telling a small group about Celeste's fairy tale romance, and how meant to be the whole thing was. The heart wants what it wants, she sighed dramatically. And sometimes love requires difficult choices. Difficult choices. I almost laughed. If only she knew how difficult tonight's choices were going to be. I made my way through the crowd, accepting greetings from business associates who knew me only as the mysterious new CEO of Castellano Industries. The media had been surprisingly easy to manage. A few strategic interviews where I appeared via video link from European offices, always shot in shadow or from behind. Most people assumed Elena Castellano was some distant relative who'd inherited the empire, not the supposedly dying daughter of Richard Whitmore. Elena. Marcus's voice cut through the ambient noise like a blade. I turned to see him approaching, resplendent in a custom tuxedo, his arm around Celeste. She looked beautiful in white silk and diamonds, some of which I recognized as pieces from my mother's collection that Victoria had borrowed years ago. Marcus Blackwood, I said smoothly, extending my hand. Congratulations on your engagement. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. Thank you. I don't believe we've met formally, though I've certainly heard about Castellano Industries' recent expansion into tech ventures. Yes, we've been making some strategic acquisitions lately. Small companies, mostly. Distressed assets. I let my gaze linger meaningfully on his face. Overlooked. Celeste stepped forward, clearly expecting an introduction. She looked older than I remembered, lines of stress beginning to show around her eyes despite the skillful makeup. "This is my fiancé, Celeste Whitmore," Marcus said proudly. "Whitmore," I repeated thoughtfully. "That name sounds familiar. Didn't that family recently lose a daughter? Some kind of tragic illness?" Celeste's smile flickered. "My stepsister, yes, she passed away a few months ago. Very sad. Passed away. That's what they'd told everyone when I'd disappeared. Much easier than explaining how they'd driven their own family member to fake her death and assume a new identity." "How terrible," I murmured. "She must have been quite young." 24, Marcus said quietly, and for just a moment I caught something that might have been genuine regret in his voice. She was a good person. Deserved better than what life gave her." "What life gave her?" I raised an eyebrow. "Or what the people in her life gave her?" An uncomfortable silence fell over our little group. Celeste's grip on Marcus's arm tightened noticeably. "Well," Marcus cleared his throat, "I should introduce you to some other guests. Elena, perhaps we could arrange a meeting next week? I'd love to discuss some potential partnership opportunities." "I'm sure you would," I smiled sweetly. "Actually, Marcus, I have some business to discuss with you tonight. Nothing formal, just a small matter regarding some recent acquisitions my company has made." "Of course. Perhaps after the toasts. That would be perfect." They moved away, Celeste whispering urgently in Marcus's ear. I could see her tension from across the room. Something was making her nervous, and it wasn't just meeting a powerful new business contact. Victoria appeared at my elbow as if materialized from thin air. "Miss Castellano, what an unexpected pleasure. I'm Victoria Whitmore, Celeste's mother." "Ah yes, the mother of the bride. You must be so proud." Beyond words, Celeste has always been destined for greatness. Even as a child, she had this magnetic quality that drew people to her. Victoria's eyes glittered with champagne and ambition. Not like her stepsister, poor thing. Some children are just born under unlucky stars. "Unlucky stars," I repeated. "How poetic. Tell me, Mrs. Whitmore, do you believe people can change their stars? Rewrite their destinies?" "Oh, I think some people are simply meant for certain roles in life. Celeste, for instance, was born to be admired, to marry well, to live beautifully. Her stepsister—" Victoria shrugged delicately. "Well, some people are meant to be cautionary tales." The casual cruelty in her voice was breathtaking, even though I'd expected it. This woman had watched me suffer for years and felt nothing but satisfaction. "Fascinating perspective," I said. "I'll have to remember that." The evening progressed with painful predictability. Speeches were made about true love conquering all. Marcus spoke about finding his soulmate in Celeste, about how fate had brought them together at exactly the right moment. Celeste giggled and blushed, and played her part to perfection. But I noticed things others missed. The way Marcus's smile never quite reached his eyes, the desperate edge to Celeste's laughter, the constant stream of phone calls Marcus was fielding, stepping away repeatedly to handle what were obviously business crises. At midnight, as the party began to wind down, I made my move. "Marcus," I approached him near the bar, where he stood alone nursing a whiskey. "About that business discussion?" "Right, yes." He looked tired suddenly, the polished facade cracking slightly. "Miss Castellano, I'll be direct. Blackwood Industries is going through a rough patch. If you're looking for tech investments, I'd be open to discussing a partnership or even a partial acquisition." "Actually, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." I pulled out my phone and showed him a document. "I don't need to invest in Blackwood Industries, I already own it." His face went white. "What?" 51% to be exact. Purchased through various shell companies over the past month. Your creditors were surprisingly eager to sell." I smiled pleasantly. "Congratulations, Marcus. You work for me now." "That's impossible. We would have been notified." "Oh, you were. Check your email." The formal notification went out about an hour ago, along with information about the new management structure. I leaned closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Did you really think you could destroy someone's life without consequences?" Recognition dawned in his eyes like a horrible sunrise. "Sophia Whitmore is dead, remember? You made sure of that when you chose money over love, business over heart." "But Elena Castellano?" I straightened, every inch the powerful woman I'd become. "She's very much alive, and she remembers everything." Marcus stumbled backward, nearly dropping his glass. "But you were dying, the doctors said." "The doctors said a lot of things. Most of them changed when I could afford better doctors. Funny how miracles happen when you have $70 billion to spend on them. 70 billion? His voice was barely a whisper. Give or take a few million. It's hard to keep track. I gestured around the elegant ballroom. This whole party, by the way? I'm paying for it. The Four Seasons? I own it. That necklace Celeste is wearing? It belonged to my mother. Victoria borrowed it years ago and never returned it. Across the room, I could see Celeste and Victoria in animated conversation with a group of socialites. They looked so pleased with themselves, so certain they'd won. What do you want? Marcus asked. Justice, acknowledgement, maybe a little old-fashioned revenge. I studied his face, noting the fear there. You left me to die, Marcus. Cast me aside like I was nothing because I wasn't profitable enough for your business plans. Well, now I'm the most profitable person in this room. How does that feel? Sophia, Elena, please. If you had known I was worth $70 billion, you never would have left me. Yes, I understand that. Do you see why that makes it worse, not better? Before he could answer, Celeste appeared at his side, her face flushed with champagne and excitement. Marcus, darling, everyone's asking about our honeymoon plans. I was thinking about the French Riviera, or maybe. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw my face, really saw it. Hello, Celeste. Her champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor in a spray of crystal and golden liquid. You're dead. Disappointed. Victoria materialized beside her daughter, took one look at my face and went pale as her white orchid centerpieces. Well, I said pleasantly, isn't this a lovely reunion? The whole family is together again. This is impossible, Victoria breathed. You died. The doctor said I needed better medical care than I could afford as a Whitmore. Fortunately, as a Castellano, I can afford the best care in the world. I gestured to the growing crowd of onlookers. I think it's time for the truth, don't you? You can't prove anything, Celeste hissed, but her voice shook. Can't I? I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Crystal clear audio of Victoria and Celeste planning their ambush, discussing how to time it for when my father was out of town, laughing about my naivety. The ballroom had gone silent. 500 of Los Angeles's most powerful people stood transfixed, watching the drama unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the space, I'd like you to meet my family. My stepmother Victoria, who spent 12 years slowly poisoning my father against me. My stepsister Celeste, who stole my fiancé while I was dying. And Marcus Blackwood, who left his dying fiancé for a prettier, healthier model. The murmur that went through the crowd was like thunder. But here's the beautiful part, I continued. They did all of this for money, for business connections, for social position. They destroyed what they thought was a weak, dying girl to get their hands on the Whitmore fortune, all 20 million of it. I paused, letting the number sink in. What they didn't know is that the weak, dying girl they discarded was actually worth $70 billion, that she was the sole heir to the Castellano empire, that she had the power to destroy everything they'd built with a single phone call. Victoria's face had gone from pale to green. Elena, please. Oh, it's too late, please. I smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Marcus, your company is now officially under new management. Celeste, your modeling contracts have been terminated. Turns out the agencies prefer to work with people who aren't internationally known for cruelty. And Victoria. I turned to my stepmother, savoring the moment. My father will be receiving some very interesting information about how his second wife has been managing his finances. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you've been skimming from the company accounts for years? You can't do this, she whispered. I can do anything I want. That's what $70 billion buys you, the power to rewrite the rules. Security appeared at my subtle signal, quietly escorting the three of them toward the exits. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, everyone suddenly very interested in their champagne. As they reached the door, Marcus turned back one last time. I did love you, he called out desperately. What we had was real. I considered this for a moment, then shook my head. No, Marcus, what we had was a business transaction that you canceled when you found better terms elsewhere. What do I have now? I gestured to the room full of power brokers who were already approaching, eager to curry favor with the newly revealed Castellano heir. This is real power. This is a real influence. This is real love, the kind that comes from respecting yourself enough to never settle for less than you deserve. The doors closed behind them with a soft click, and the party resumed as if nothing had happened. Such was the way of high society. Scandals were absorbed and metabolized within minutes, becoming tomorrow's gossip and next week's forgotten news. David appeared at my elbow with a fresh glass of champagne. "How do you feel, Miss Castellano?" I sipped the champagne and looked around the ballroom. My ballroom filled with people who now knew exactly who they were dealing with. "Alive," I said simply. "For the first time in my life, I feel completely alive." Outside, I knew my former family was climbing into separate cars, their perfect evening shattered beyond repair. Marcus would spend the night trying to figure out how to salvage his company from under my control. Celeste would discover that her trust fund had mysteriously vanished. Funny how money disappears when the banks are informed about fraudulent documentation. And Victoria would return to an empty house, because my father, armed with evidence of her embezzlement and emotional abuse, had already filed for divorce. But that was their story now. This was mine. I was Elena Castellano, heir to an empire, survivor of betrayal, and living proof that sometimes the best revenge is not just success, it's becoming so powerful that your enemy's worst nightmares can't even imagine what you're truly capable of. The girl who'd been cast aside to die had indeed died that night 3 months ago. The woman who'd risen in her place was just getting started. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.